going deep into the box. Boy, oh boy, from here on North Star, as we look out at them, they're deep.
Yeah, so Alinghi managed to force a pretty early jibe on Team New Zealand. I wouldn't think there's any problem with that. No, it's a green flag. But certainly position-wise, Alinghi's in a strong position right here.
Why?
Because they can pick their time to come back and, you know, position against Team New Zealand a little bit more in a threatening position.
All right.
See that they're spending their time. They've got a lot of time on starboard to come back and then position nice and close to Team New Zealand on port.
Right, so we're down to 2:45 now to the start.
Alinghi didn't do such a nice job of that manoeuvre there. They've allowed a little bit more separation than what they possibly could have.
2.5 minutes to the start. Race 2, America's Cup 2007.
Still pretty early to the line, and Alinghi's leading in. So I would guess that they're working for the left here.
Who Alinghi are working for the left?
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming down to 2 minutes 10. So it is Alinghi on the lead back. Team New Zealand will out to the right. Coming down to 2 minutes, so they are well back deep in the box, but they won't have to scrub too much time off, Russell.
Well, they're pretty early, I mean, but they've got the length of the line to use up. It looked like the way they entered, even though Alinghi was a little late, it looked like the starting line might be a little favoured towards the committee boat because you know, Team New Zealand were able to cross. But obviously very, very important, as I said earlier, to get the correct side of the course in terms of the breeze.
Inside 90 seconds.
The Team New Zealand's going to drive them down the line a little bit further here, and may well be a split tack start here. Oh, Team New Zealand's got Alinghi in trouble here. Alinghi allowed them to get the hook. That was a bad mistake there by Alinghi, and Team New Zealand's got them under pressure here.
Inside the final minute. Remember, if you see a yellow flag, that is Alinghi. Another white flag goes up, 40 seconds.
That was interesting, though, because Team New Zealand obviously don't want the left. They could have easily just still flagged them and tacked underneath and taken the left in.
So it's green flag, business as usual, as we're coming down to the final stages for the start of race 2. Now to 20 seconds. So it is Team New Zealand who will be out to the right as they're tacking down to leeward of the committee boat. And they're trying to wind up. Meanwhile, Alinghi further down the line are really lining up for a slingshot start here at 5 seconds. The start, race 2, America's Cup 2007, out of Valencia, Spain.
Really nice finish to Team New Zealand there, and they've got a great start here. It's interesting that I think both boats had a different strategy there. I suspect that Alinghi did want the left and made a mistake to let them hook, but Team New Zealand probably wanted the right.
All right, so it is Alinghi down to leeward. It is Team New Zealand out to the right. So they're locked together now, and this, Russell, is where they need intense concentration. There's Dean Barker. You've sailed with him a lot. He was your prodigy. A bomb could go off and he wouldn't know it at the moment. He's so consumed with his concentration.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all about metres gained and lost, and you know, obviously if Team New Zealand can hold them far enough out to the where there might be a favourable wind shift or whatever, then they'll be in a strong position. If they can't, then Alinghi's probably going to have the edge.
What's your impression of the early stages? Because Team New Zealand did have the advantage. They got a beaut start, but it seems that Alinghi is comfortable there at the moment. There's Murray Jones, brilliant, underrated, understated contributor to the Alinghi campaign.
Well, I don't know whether he's underrated. I think everyone in the world, certainly in America's Cup circuits, knows what an influence he has, you know, on this team.
Right, Team New Zealand's tacked away. Your summary of that?
Well, they lost quite a bit there, you know, before they had to tack away, which, you know, I think, you know, the Alinghi boat's going pretty nicely here.
So, in this weight of breeze, 10 knots or a little bit under, in flatter water, where Team New Zealand was expected to have a strong suit, it seems that Alinghi has certainly matched them, at least so far.
Nice pressure holding for you.
Yeah, I mean, I would have, you know, expected Alinghi to be pretty strong in these conditions. There's enough wind out here, you know, for them to be, you know, to have for their boat to be, you know, in pretty good shape.
So it's Emirates Team New Zealand out to the left, it's Alinghi out to the right, and after the early skirmish and a wonderful start by Dean Barker, now the advantage, the pendulum has gone back to Alinghi as they're coming back to cover. This is straight out of the textbook of match racing.
Team New Zealand must have been pretty confident about the right, whereas it certainly looks to me as though it's turned out that the left has been certainly okay and pretty good probably.
Actually looks a little lighter to the left of me now.
That's why...
There's Brad Butterworth. It looks a little lighter to the left of me now, and they're crossing over in front.
Yeah, well, they would have, as I said, they would have decided what to do well before Team New Zealand tacked. And, yeah,
so therefore, if
advantage.
Brad is just reinforcing that, you know, the decision, quite obviously they're going to the right, and we take it from that, if it looks lighter, that they're happy to move away from the left because they're getting out to the right, a bit more puff, yes?
Yeah, but, you know, yesterday they sailed the race pretty tight, and they were quite happy to spend a bit of their lead just to absolutely guarantee they were going to stay in front. So I think that even if they think the right is starting to look more favoured now, that they probably won't push out there too far. They'll probably, you know, keep the game relatively close.
Yes, there were a lot of comments about Ed Beard. The start yesterday was not quite so good. Dean Barker bested him there, but then comments once they got underway, his absolute concentration. He sailed the boat very, very well on and off the wind. So here we can see as we're getting to the top mark, 9.5, and it's pretty steady still, 9 to 10 knots as they're closing to the top of the course.
So to get a little soft for the next 40.
Yeah, but it just shows how important all the other people are in these programs, you know, like the weather program and getting that, you know, as I said, I thought it was a pretty tricky day with maybe an area of divergence right on the course, and you know, it's absolutely critical that you get the right information.
Well into leg one, race two, America's Cup 2007. Alinghi has an advantage around 70 metres. Coming to mark number one in the second race of the 32nd America's Cup. It is Alinghi leading around the top mark into the first off-wind leg. Here comes the hoist from Alinghi. Team New Zealand still coming up to the mark, super set. We shouldn't be surprised. They've got a red-hot crew aboard Alinghi. Now, here comes Team New Zealand round the mark. They click off at 19 seconds.
There you go, Jack. 3, 2, 1, you're there.
Team New Zealand go through the set. Again, excellent sail handling, excellent boat handling from both teams. Team New Zealand quick there.
Yeah, just keep it going. When we find a flat spot, we will be driving, all right?
So certainly Brad Butterworth is not happy about some of the spectator craft and where they are.
Here we go.
And he was giving the impression if they can hear him, then they'd be wise to move.
That f***ing boat off the race course.
Yeah, all right. I think the race officials might be getting the message loud and clear from the competitors. There's clearly a boat clearly in the way. I must say there's a couple of huge cruise liners away out to the left. But anyway, we can see there's quite a deal of separation here, and there's some boat that's doing something, either affecting the airflow, but also the sea state.
Yeah, I know.
Well, Alinghi's had to do two jibes there. Obviously, the first one was by choice, but the second one, I think they, you know, they might not have been planning on that when they did the first jibe. So this has closed the game right down, and it's exactly what Team New Zealand needs.
Oh, they can hear me on this. They know that there's a problem, and it's that big thing there, that Louis Vuitton boat, that blue boat. They're just impacting on the race.
We're in leg 2 at the moment. First downwind leg.
Yeah, no more than what you've had.
There's
No
some
more than what we've had
statistics
for the
for
next
you
speed.
that the average speed, this is of course around about the same.
Copy.
This travelled much more than the other. The delta at Mark 2, that's what we're waiting for. The delta at Mark 1 was 19 seconds. That is the margin between the two time-wise.
You can see in that graphic that Alinghi generally sail, from those numbers, sail a slightly faster, higher mode than Team New Zealand. Team New Zealand sail a tenth of a knot slower, but also sail a little lower, which lets them sail less distance. So they, you know, there's not much in it. We're only talking about a tenth of a knot, but just a slight difference in the mode between the two boats.
As we're getting to the closing stages here of leg number 2, the first off-wind leg in race number 2 of the 32nd America's Cup, the first to be sailed in Europe since 1851. Right, we'll see how good the sail handling is now under pressure.
You know, and as they're coming in here, they're trying to figure out exactly how to exit these marks, where the breeze is, if the breeze is shifted one way or the other. That's going to determine which side would be preferable to come around the mark and around this gate.
Boy, they're carrying these chutes right up to the pin. Boy, oh boy. But if you've got world-class crews, I expect you would.
About 20.
So drop it. Here comes the spike from Alinghi. And are they going to the left-hand mark? They're going to separate marks, are they? That's Peter van Nieuwhuizen on the bow. Curtis blew it behind him for Alinghi. So they are. Alinghi's taking the left-hand mark, looking up the course. Remember, 19 seconds was the distance, the time at the bottom mark. So it clicks off at. It is 13, so it is a gain to Team New Zealand of 6 seconds. And they're at gone to different marks. It's Team New Zealand who is breaking left. They're on port, and they are going out to the right. Meanwhile, it is Alinghi on starboard going out to the left.
The margin is just 40 metres. Alinghi, who've led from practically the start, although Dean Barker gave Team New Zealand an excellent chance. They wanted the right, they got the right. Alinghi clearly wanted the left as well, as we see Alinghi now tacking back towards Team New Zealand. That margin around 40 metres. And we just bring up those speeds again, the boat speeds, and just keep an eye on them yourself as you see Alinghi and Team New Zealand as they bottom out, their speed slowing right down as they tack. Just compare the two of them and see what you think. This is an interesting stage of this race now, Cameron, because each boat, they're talking about the weather, constantly talking about the weather, and as we look up and see about 25 metres difference, Team New Zealand might just be starting to get the antenna up, thinking maybe there's something out there for them.
Yeah, the last cross when Alinghi actually changed sides of Team New Zealand, it sounded like it was quite a dilemma on the Alinghi boat at what to do at that time, and they opted for probably the safer option of keeping the starboard tack advantage. Generally, if you give the guy the opposite boat, the left-hand side, compared to your right, everything being even, you've got to gain more to get around the starboard tacker.
All right, Russell, you've out on the water. How do you see it at the moment?
I think Team New Zealand's made a nice gain initially in this leg. You know, again, Alinghi, you know, confident to keep position. In other words, keep starboard tack rights and spend a bit of their lead. Looked to me like you know, and without being on board the boat and seeing all the instrumentation, everything's hard to judge. But to me, like Team New Zealand could have and should have come back a little bit earlier than they did this time. But they've done a nice job since the mark and closed things down at least now, you know, forcing Alinghi to make some decisions. And you know, their decisions are more difficult with Team New Zealand being this close.
I think you're right that you make a good point there, that for a lot of the pundits who suggested that one boat was going to be much quicker than the other, and this, you know, we don't know what the result will be. It could, you never know. One boat might not win a race, but it's a close contest, isn't it, all the way through that we've seen so far?
Yeah, it's a real close contest here, you know, I think from my impression is that you know, these races are winnable for Team New Zealand.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to have to sail real well because you know, Alinghi is a superb sailing team, and they've got a slight speed edge, but I still believe, you know, having looked at these races, that these races are winnable for Team New Zealand.
Yeah, Team New Zealand have sailed a fantastic leg 3 up to this time. They've made huge inroads back in. Now Alinghi have had to defend the right-hand side here. Team New Zealand are, you know, just trying to live off them as much as they can, and they seem to be doing a really nice job.
That's encouraging, isn't it?
Really, really nice. You know, as I think Russell said, these are two very even boats, and these races are able to be won by either team here.
Look at that. NZL 1 metre. We haven't seen the blue line in front since, well, way back about 3 or 4 minutes after the start. So this has been a good leg, an excellent leg for Emirates Team New Zealand.
3 and 8.
We listened to the comments on board, and Brad Butterworth was saying it looks better out the right. They're heading out to the right.
Yeah, and I think Alinghi will be a little disappointed in where they tacked the boat in that last exchange. In hindsight, they should have got up a little closer to Team New Zealand, put a little bit more pressure on them. And Team New Zealand have managed to hang off them nicely here, and maybe there's a little bit of left pressure. And we heard the information coming back, there's only 3 minutes left this way. So Team New Zealand can hang in here for 2 more minutes, and they'll get the chance to be able to tack to leeward of Alinghi on the way back to the left up to the top mark and put the pressure on them.
I just said it was coming from the New Zealand boat. I think pressure for us. So there we see what Cameron's been talking about, just 3 minutes to the starboard ley line.
Strategy-wise from both boats, the Alinghi know when they tack, they have starboard advantage, but they have to get, if they had to tack right now, Team New Zealand would easily be able to get a tight lee bow tack on them. So they'll need to advance another boat length, or maybe not a boat length, but another half a length yet to get themselves in a position where they could tack and still be comfortable with Team New Zealand going a long way. 8 minutes to the top mark the other way. A lot can happen. If one boat gets disadvantaged, then you can really see them suffer a little bit.
Is it possible, as we close to mark number 3, race 2, that it could be 1-all
Just pull the flipper up again.
in the 32nd America's Cup? Team New Zealand out to the left, Alinghi out to the right.
Well, I'm telling you, Pete, this is going to be a huge boost for Team New Zealand. Just exactly what's happened up the sleeve and the way they've come back into the race. You know, in terms of the rest of the series and the way they'll sail the rest of the series, I think this is a massive boost for them.
All right, look ahead over the next 30 seconds. What's Team New Zealand doing, and then Alinghi?
Well, Alinghi's, you know, happy to close down to Team New Zealand now. Team New Zealand are going to lead around the mark. It looks like Alinghi's going to be, you know, 15 seconds behind, or 10 or 15 seconds behind, and that should be a lead that Team New Zealand should be able to defend down this last leg.
Dean Barker cool under pressure here. They're getting very close before the final tack to the top mark. Jeremy Lomas on the bow. Behind him, Richard Meacham. Behind him, Matt Mason. Right, here comes the tack from Team New Zealand. Mark 3, race 2. And it is Team New Zealand that's come from behind on leg number 3, the second beat to windward, and the clock is ticking against Alinghi. It's 15 seconds. Wow. Turning a deficit of 13 seconds into a plus of 15 for Team New Zealand. What a comeback.
Yeah, a great comeback. There's no doubt about it, this is a difficult day, breeze-wise. And I think on board Alinghi, you know, there was a bit of discussion between Murray Jones and Brad as to what side they wanted back then when they had the choice, you know, halfway up that leg.
Yeah.
Bit of, I guess, you know, I'm not sure whether Murray, I think Murray was quite favouring the left, but you know, probably the left ended up being, well, obviously it ended up being a lot stronger than what either of them thought.
All right, Russell, look ahead. What's the boat out to the right? Team New Zealand got to do to defend this lead?
Well, I think they're far enough ahead that they can just, you know, pretty much stay with Alinghi. It's going to be hard for Alinghi really hard to pass them. You know, Team New Zealand's going to have to make a mistake to let them back into this game.
But Team New Zealand now, Virtual Eye have got them out to 100 metres in front.
Yeah.
What a thriller this race is. What a stunner this last leg is.
Yeah, and my comment about what I just made before is assuming that Alinghi can make a game when they're 100 metres behind like this, they won't be able to jive on Team New Zealand's ear. So Team New Zealand's in a very, very strong position here, and they've just got to keep doing what they're doing now, and this race is sealed.
This has been a staggering performance from Emirates Team New Zealand. It's not that long ago, Cameron, that we were sitting here, and I know viewers back home would have been saying, oh no, they're not quite good enough, fast enough. But that second upwind leg, it was just all of a sudden it seemed they were into the game, weren't they? And it just shows how little there is between them. And if your weather people on board and onshore are picking it right, then you're going to win these races. It's almost down to that, isn't it? Weather teams and spotters on board.
Yeah, it's been an absolutely fantastic performance here on that second beat by Team New Zealand. You know, their strategy all along, we saw them do it yesterday, is they're behind, they've just got to keep plugging away, keep the game as close as possible. And if the boat ahead makes a mistake, they're there to pounce. And when Alinghi crossed Team New Zealand ahead early on that second upwind leg and took the right-hand side, that was the mistake that Alinghi made. And you could actually hear the voices coming across there where Alinghi were undecided of what to do, and they decided to take the right. And when they crossed over, it almost seemed like the guys on Team New Zealand, we could hear Adam Bieshel and Ray Davies talking back to Terry, and they were almost a little excited. Yeah. Like, oh, we like where we're going up here. This is good. And they got themselves in a nice position and have made a really nice passing manoeuvre.
This is a magnificent sight. Alinghi trailing at the moment by 100 metres plus.
How much?
It seems quite staggering that after two legs, Emirates Team New Zealand were trailing, but now they are in front with the finish line in sight. Magnificent effort from Emirates Team New Zealand. Trailing over the first two legs, and then that passing manoeuvre where things turned out really well for Kevin Hall and the rest of the afterguard. The crew's done it well. They took the lead, led at the third mark by 15 seconds, and now Grant Dalton tongue out. He knows that this has been a significant performance from this team.
Big game here. It's getting close now. James Dagg there out to the left.
Nice going, guys.
Huge hulking Chris Ward. Nice going, guys. They've still got a little distance to go. But Team New Zealand already have got the warm glow of satisfaction. But they've pulled this off. And they've taken time out of Alinghi. They're out to 130 metres. So here they go through the final jibe. This is the final runway and the final approach to the finish. Team New Zealand tie up the 32nd America's Cup. Team New Zealand gets its first victory against Alinghi in an America's Cup match. Team New Zealand, skippered by Dean Barker, win race 2, coming from behind on leg 3 after trailing at the first 2 marks. What a comeback, what a race. It's 1-all, Alinghi 1, Team New Zealand 1. Joy and delight echoes around the water out of Valencia, Spain, on a brilliant, brilliant comeback from Team New Zealand as Alinghi crossed the line at 28 seconds astern. So at the last mark, it was 15 seconds. So how do we make sense out of that when yesterday Alinghi had wheels and Team New Zealand go from 15 to 28 seconds? For his summary of what's happened after the last 2 incredible legs, Russell Coots.
Hey, Matty.
Well, obviously, big mistake by Alinghi up the last windward leg. And, actually, when I think back to it, they were still in control. They were still ahead. But then, a very poor leebow tack underneath Team New Zealand allowed Team New Zealand to live there. And when the breeze lifted even further left, Team New Zealand were then controlling. Team New Zealand, on the other hand, after getting behind in the early stage of the race, sailed a brilliant race. They kept it close. They waited for the error. The error came, and they took their chance straight away. Fantastic race for them, and I would say this series is now all on.